Welcome to the Profile Series. I'm your host, Linda Sandu. Today we have a very special guest, a friend of the Media Center and a friend of mine, Bob Isadore. Bob, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Bob is, what's your title? Because I'm going to mess it up.
I am the chairman of the board of directors of the Council on Aging in Yarmouth.
There you go. And you wear a lot of other hats.
I do. We'll get into those right now.
Bob is starting a new show, and we're very excited about it. We've all been doing homework on it, so we're very up to date on it. And what's the name of the show going to be?
It's going to be Remembering Stonewall. And basically, it's going to be documenting the progress from the date of the Stonewall Rebellion in Greenwich Village in New York to present time. And we'll be covering a lot of the issues that face the LGBT community right along the way. So
I think it's wonderful. I want to start, we're going to go back to that, but I want to start just getting people to know you, because I think that's very important that people have a connection with the host, because you're going to be the host of the show. So that's very exciting. Of course you are. And so tell us a little bit about who you are, where you came from, how you're married now, how kind of a synopsis of how your life came about.
Born and raised in Fall River, Massachusetts. I lived in New York, was a buyer for Saks Fifth Avenue for a few years.
Lucky.
Met my partner at that time, and now my spouse, David Velasco Bermudez. Moved to Puerto Rico, and I'm doing this very quickly, obviously. And finally came back to Cape Cod, where we decided to set our roots and grow, be involved in the community. That's
so great, and David's so wonderful.
Yeah, David, actually next year, Dave and I will be celebrating 40 years together.
Congratulations, that's amazing.
I got involved politically probably around 2000, getting involved in my town committee, and getting involved in the community itself. Became chairman of the board of directors in Yarmouth about 6 years ago. And I believe we are the first, at least COA on Cape Cod, that actually started an LGBT project, which means we opened the doors to the LGBT community, integrated them into the present programs we have. We felt that it was important not to have specific programs for the LGBT community, but to do it as a community where everyone was welcome and everyone participated together. And it's been very successful.
Tell me a few of the programs that people are really connecting with.
You're right. The general programs, especially during the day, you know, the exercise programs and the Meals on Wheels and whatever program we have available. I think the most, I won't say it's the most successful, because I think they all are, but I think the most important one we've developed is the bereavement group.
Oh, yeah.
Where we have members of the LGBT community, they're able to come in and speak with a counselor.
That's so nice.
Because that safety net was not there for them.
Right, absolutely.
Even though I know people say, well, you know, if someone loses someone and they go to a counselor, isn't it the same thing? And it really isn't. I mean, the support as far as the grieving part would be the same, but the safety nets are not. You know, Social Security, housing, federal programs, they're not available to the LGBT community. Like, I think the straight community or the heterosexual community think because we have same-gender marriage in Massachusetts that everything is done and over, that everyone is treated equally.
And that it's not the case. What did you tell me? There's 1,100?
There's 1,100 different programs, federal programs or benefits that the LGBT legally married couples do not get.
Can't participate in.
That's right.
That's amazing, and that's from insurance to the one thing you said, which is pretty amazing. You wouldn't get notified if if your partner was in the service.
Right. In my case, I'm a disabled veteran, and my spouse David. If something happened to me, and say I passed away, and I chose to be buried in a veteran cemetery, he cannot be buried with me. Heterosexual couples, there's no barrier there. If I was on active duty in, say, in Afghanistan, and I was either killed, wounded, or missing in action, he would never be notified because they do not consider him a legal spouse. So it's things like that that people really don't realize is out there. So I mean, and it's really, I think, like yourself, when you found that out, you were like,
yeah, I'm shocked.
That can't be, but
yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
So that's why we hope DOMA is a thing of the past.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Hopefully next month we'll see that decision come through.
Yeah. When, how long, you were in the military, how long ago was that?
Oh, long time.
Was it a long time
Yeah,
ago?
1960.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
I'm going to be 71 this year. So.
Oh, bless your heart. Oh my God. Lucky you. You look fabulous.
Thank you.
Now to flash forward about the show, I will confess I didn't know a lot about Stonewall, just very little. I was young. I'm a little bit younger than you.
Yes, okay.
And so I found it fascinating. You'd sent me research, and I did a little bit of research online about it. And I'm so excited for this show because I think that you and your guests, because you're going to have guests on, can like walk us through stages. Like, we take it for granted, and especially here in Massachusetts and the way many of us were raised, that homosexuality is kind of normal.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And for some people it's not, and it's a real problem, and obviously on the federal level it's a real problem.
Well, just to talk about Stonewall a bit, that happened in 1969 in Greenwich Village at a club called the Stonewall Inn. That particular week, I mean, there were things that were going on obviously before that, the harassments and police raids, and people were...
Was it a known gay club?
Yes, okay. Absolutely. You know, people were being beat up. They were being harassed by the police. I mean, not for no specific reason, just because they were gay. That particular week, Judy Garland had passed away. It was
huge
the death
gay
of
icon.
Right, absolutely, like Michael Jackson is to the younger people today. So there was a lot of sadness. People were going not only to the Stonewall, a lot of the clubs. That particular day was the day that she was laid to rest. So people were there celebrating her life, gathering just to be with each other. And there was a police raid that night. Now, sometimes people say the 27th. It actually happened on the 28th, like 1 o'clock in the morning.
Okay,
1:30 in the morning. But it was sort of the wrong time and the wrong place to do it. People they were upset. They had had enough. Like I've explained to some of the folks here in the studio, people didn't realize that it was illegal to even serve homosexual drinks in New York City. If a gay person went into a straight bar, and that bar owner or bartender knowingly served alcohol to a homosexual, they would be fined, and the gay person could be arrested.
But Stonewall, because it was a gay bar, you could serve?
It was a private club.
Oh, okay.
So because it's a private club, the rules were different. Interesting. So from that night, I mean, my spouse David was at the Stonewall Inn that night. He was one of the rebels, I call him. He still is a rebel, by the way. But,
really?
But he was one of the, in the club there were approximately 200 people that were involved in that. And of course, it spilled into the streets, and this thing went on for 3 or 4 days. And as we look at it today, there were only about 17 or 18 actual members that were in the club that night that are still living.
That's
so
amazing.
It's something that we have to preserve for history.
Yes, yeah.
But
also the timeline from when that happened to today is amazing.
It is. It's been a slow progress up until, I would say, the last few years, and things seem to be speeding forward now. But the things, even after the raid on the club, the first year, it was still pretty hard. I mean, people were still being prejudiced. There were kids that were thrown out of their homes. What would happen is if the club was raided like that and they were arrested, the next day in the Daily News, they'd had their names, their addresses,
and what the charge was,
where they worked, and people lost their homes. They were thrown out of their apartments. There were A few of David's friends actually had committed suicide because of it, because they had nowhere to go. They,
oh my
It was a really, really tragic and hard time to live through.
Sure.
But things have changed. We normally go back to New York for the Pride Parade every year. And on the 40th anniversary, ironically, when our float pulled onto Fifth Avenue to go down, because the Stonewall float is the lead float in the parade, we had an honor guard of 50 police officers from the precinct that had raided the...
Wow.
So
people have come full circle, and,
absolutely, absolutely.
That is such a blessing. I mean, you'd have to,
it is.
I mean, what can you say to that? It's that education and perseverance and not going backwards, right?
Exactly.
I mean, there's that line. Do you keep going forward, or do you go back into the closet, so to speak, literally at that point?
And that's the purpose of this program. I believe that we need to continually educate the public. Not trying to convince anyone that, you know, if they feel opposed to same-gender marriage, I mean, that's a prerogative, and I have no issue with that.
Right.
But the fairness and the equality issue is
huge
out there. So we need to educate the people, knowing what the struggles are in the gay community, what they now face. I expect to be having maybe a program with the chief of police from Yarmouth to come in and talk about issues that face the community. Maybe someone else from the LGBT community, the transgender communities.
Absolutely.
All the aspects of the LGBT community should be out in front and let the public know what the issues are that we're going through.
Right. And make everybody equal, so you don't have to have shows like this to pigeonhole people.
Exactly.
I mean, that's always the thing that I don't like is...
Right. And we're very fortunate to live in a state where
Yes.
we're very progressive, and I think we have an administrative, you know, have a governor, the legislative branch is very protective of equal rights for everyone,
Yes.
not just, you know,
Yeah.
not just LGBT members.
But the thing that you all experience, and I know from friends and family, that's as good as the 4 years they're in office, you know? I mean,
True. That's true.
If somebody else comes in and the ball could change in a hurry.
No, but we don't want to get into politics.
I think it's wonderful that you're doing the show. It's called
Remembering Stonewall.
Remembering Stonewall. And it's going forward from there, and
I would like, I think the first program we do will be with my spouse, David Velasco Bermudez, and Erica K. Webster, who is also a Stonewall veteran and a transgender.
Was she a transgender at the time?
No, she was not.
Okay.
No, she was not. This came on later.
Okay.
She was a drag queen, what they call drag queens then. But they were both at Stonewall. They have different perspectives of what went on. I mean, and again, like any uprising or rebellion, depending on where you were during that time, you may have a different story. So I think you'll find it very interesting.
Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait. Bob, I'm so excited about the show. I'm glad you're getting involved with the Media Center again. And we'll see your show. You're hoping for June, right?
Yes,
Perfect.
absolutely.
Okay.
Anniversary of Stonewall is in June.
Oh, awesome. We should air it the first night.
All right. Thank you.
Absolutely. I'm Linda Sandu. We'll see you next time.